What is happening, everybody? And it's time for MLB Live Before Lock, which is going to be followed by NBA Live Before Lock, which is going to be followed by the Playback Watch Along with myself and Josh Engelman. So if you guys are looking for some content, we got you covered for the next few hours here. So do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Do have a special deal for you for baseball that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But first, I haven't talked to my friend Matt Bellman here in a little bit. I was away on vacation last week, and we were on a show together yesterday. We are today. So Matt, what's up, dude?
Nothing, man. Happy to be back on with you. The DFS streets have treated me nice while you were gone, so hopefully that can continue while you're here. Last Tuesday, actually, did the show with EMAC because you were gone and had a massive night. So hoping to rekindle that same magic, and happy to do it with you.
And that's why EMAC is going to be both our future president and Pope. We've added to his potential accolades there. So EMAC, he was the magic. He was what got you there. I'm sure you don't doubt that for a second, that EMAC had everything to do with your win. Is that correct?
He had everything to do with the win. And I just have to respond to this real quick. Clintwood83 said, "Oh my God, Matt's not muted on playback." I get it. I deserve that. But for the past 5 shows, I haven't been muted. So come on, give me a little bit of a break here.
He's on a hot streak here. He's on a hot streak. He's gone a few in a row there.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Next thing you know, Laffy's going to start showing up right on the mark as soon as the show is supposed to start in the morning. We're going to have Eric. Who knows? Eric will start winning lineups. The impossible. Anything could happen. The impossible. Anything is possible out there. But anyway, like I said, guys, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're going to walk you guys through the baseball slate today. And yeah, Matt's been killing it. We've seen some subs that have also been crushing it as of late. We had Jorge, he recently won $50,000, got his screenshot over here. Matt won, I don't know, it was a number so big I couldn't even count, because you'd won the 100K and the 888, but then you won some of the other contests as well. So it was I don't know, altogether, 125, 135 grand or something that Matt had in that one day. And because we've had so many people having success using the tools as of late, here's the deal I have for you guys. Sign up for any of our MLB packages that you want, whether it's a core, a max, a weekly, a monthly. Sign up with the promo code RALLY, RALLY, and you get 50% off any package that you want to sign up for. This deal is going to be expiring tonight, so take advantage of it in the next couple of hours. But I always like to celebrate the big wins by guys like Jorge and Matt as well. So sign up with that promo code RALLY. Take advantage of all the different tools we have here on the site.
I got to shout out the tools also, just while we're on that subject, because I don't even know if you played, but certainly you weren't doing the shows. The tools pushed me on Tyler Mahle last Tuesday, which was ultimately the difference between a 100K night and a 3K night. So that was pretty big. And then last night, I don't even play much NBA Showdown at all, but I really just liked Kawhi a lot, a bounce back spot for him. So I just boosted him in the Sims and played 50 lineups in the main contest and ended up splitting first. So the Sims and the tools are doing great work right now.
Love to see it. Love to see it. Yeah, I was profitable last night at NBA. Not as profitable as you, but for me, it was Michael Porter Jr. was my guy that helped me make some money last night. But for Matt, yeah, he tied in first in the showdown. I saw some people. There was somebody else who I know I've retweeted it. I can't
Danny
remember.
Burke.
Yeah, there it was. Danny Burke. He had, why did I think it was a sub? But yeah, you're right. So Danny Burke, who also is a content creator here, he ended up going and tying with you for first place. So Danny actually does a little bit more work behind the scenes here, but then also every once in a while does shorts and whatnot on YouTube. But anyway, yeah, love to see all the success. And now let's try to have some more success tonight, Matt. I'm going to need your help here. I'm getting back into the swing of things with baseball. And where we usually like to start here is just kind of a general overview of the slate. And I want to know from a weather standpoint or any other overarching thoughts on the slate. Is there anything that really stands out to you before we start talking about the pitchers and the stacks?
Nothing stands out from a weather perspective. The only thing that stands out to me from an overview is that there's no cores, and the Dodgers and Yankees aren't on the slate. So interesting. And that, two of the biggest offenses, Ohtani and Judge aren't on the slate tonight. Excuse me. The Dodgers are, the Yankees aren't. I don't know why I for somehow looked over the Dodgers, but the Yankees are not.
Yeah, Yankees not on the slate, no Coors. Those have kind of been the staples of slates as of late. You get Coors Field, you get the Yankees, you get the Dodgers, and then not as a 100% rule, but in general, it's been the chalk on a lot of recent slates. And then whatever else is on the slate kind of ends up being lesser owned. What we do have is being massively popular today on what can only be described as a very odd pitching slate, Matt, because we've got Chris Bubic project for 51% ownership here on DraftKings. Here are other pay-up options. You've got Chris Bassett. You've got Dustin May. You've got Christopher Sanchez. You've got Shota Imanaga, Jose Soriano, Brandon Pfaadt, as well as Jose Quintana. Now, if we're looking at these different pitching options that we have here, Bubic is the one who stands out the most just in terms of ownership, where he is going to be massively popular, pulling that 51% ownership. And there isn't any, like, nobody's above 9K on DraftKings. So there's no real super expensive pitching option. We've got Bassett, the most expensive, Bubic, the second most expensive. Where I want to start, though, is by talking about the ownership on Bubic. And do you think it's warranted? And is he somebody you want to click on? For cash games, he's an obvious click. But what do you do with him relative to his ownership in GPPs?
Yeah, he's over-owned for sure. So we can get that out of the way. We see that often, though, with like the top pitcher on the slate, because pitching is so projectable. Usually tournaments aren't won with pitching. They can certainly be lost with pitching. I say that a lot, but it holds true, at least to me. So yeah, Bubic is over-owned here, but he gets the Rockies at home. He's been good. Interestingly enough, for me personally, I kind of lump Ober and Bubic together because those two guys are going to combine for maybe even over 100, probably over 100% ownership in small field stuff and higher dollar stuff. I prefer Ober. I could easily see myself playing both, but Ober is the priority for me because he's 2K cheaper. And we've talked about this, I'll say as good of a spot as Bubic is in. So I like Ober more as far as the chalk pitchers go, but I got no problem playing Bubic. I don't look at him as a must like the field does, but ultimately, I think that there aren't really any other pitchers that stand out aside from Bubic and Ober based on the matchups and price tag those guys are in. How do you see Bubic here?
Yeah, so running everything through the Sims, I get to a ton of him. He showed up in 70% of lineup. So despite all the ownership that's going to him, I still am getting to even more than what the field is getting. So I think that he's a really strong option today. I like Bailey Ober as well. I think both of the chalk pitchers look pretty good. And I think that for cash games, this is super simple. Super simple. I'm sure we're going to get some questions that come in about cash games for today. Every once in a while, there are some decision points to make. I don't know that it could be any clearer than just roster Bubic and Bailey Ober for cash games today.
Yeah, I mean, it's about as easy as it gets for cash games. I totally agree with you.
And if you guys do have questions for us and you are a Stokastic sub, hit me up in Discord. I see that we've got, oh no, never mind. This is a weird NBA question that just popped up in my notifications from like the middle of the night last night. So never mind. That is not pertaining to our show here. If you guys do have baseball questions for tonight's slate, hit me up. I'm on the lookout in Discord for any of those questions. And it comes with all the packages we have here at Stokastic. So if you take advantage of that promo that we talked about at the top, which once again, sign up right now, promo code RALLY for any of the MLB packages we have on the site, and you're going to get yourself 50% off. That also comes with access to Discord channel on top of things like our player projections, our ownership projections, our sims, the contest generator, single lineup sims. That also comes with access to Discord. So Bubic, pretty clearly the top pay up option to me. But what I think is interesting is try to figure out if you are going to get away from Bubic, Matt, or maybe if you were just to pair him with another high-end pay-up pitcher, is there another pitcher who's 8K or more do you also like in addition to Bubic?
No, that's the problem, and why I'll probably just play Bubic, because while I do like Ober more than Bubic, and Ober for me is like the clear priority, I think the gap after those two is pretty big as far as like just who looks good on the slate. Certainly other guys are in play, like we're not lacking other good pitchers on this slate. I'm a huge fan of what Christopher Sanchez has done this year, how he looks. He's on my 1 year-long fantasy team. He looked really good in the spring, and he's continued that over. But he faces the Mets here, and he is the same price as Bubic. So he's probably the guy just because as far as talent goes, I think he's probably the most talented pitcher on this slate. So anytime I can get a guy like that at an ownership discount, I'm for it. I just hate the matchup, and I don't think his upside or his floor is as high as Bubic's is here. And unfortunately, matchups play a lot as far as pitchers go in baseball, and that's just what we have here.
So for myself, I am getting a little bit overweight to Chris Bassett. Like my priority is by far Bubic here on the pay up side, but Chris Bassett, who I've not always been a massive fan of in the past, has gotten off to an unbelievable start this year. It's only 4 starts. Like, you don't want to pull too much into the small sample size, but same time too, this is the best he's ever pitched by a mile. His numbers are outrageous this year, Matt. He's a .77 ERA, a 1.02 FIP. He's got a 2.88 expected ERA. The strikeouts, which have been something that haven't existed for him in the past, he's a 33.3% strikeout rate. That's a career high. He's got a 5.4% walk rate. That's a career low. So just everything across the board has been outstanding for Bassett to open up the season. I hate the matchup on the road in Houston. The matchup against Houston is going to be a little bit easier this year than it was in previous years. Just there's no Bregman there anymore. It's still going to be a very difficult matchup, but it's worth
Or
noting.
Tucker.
Yeah, but true. And Kyle Tucker. It's not as hard. I think a lot of people look at the Houston Astros, which, by the way, like I said, I still think it's going to be a tough matchup, but I don't think it's as tough of a matchup as we typically think of the Houston Astros.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, it's still good. They replaced those guys with Isaac Paredes and Christian Walker, 2 like guys with power that strike out. I mean, Bregman is a really good hitter, and Tucker is a great hitter. So you take those guys out, I'm with you. Like, the matchup is much more desirable for opposing starting pitching as it was in the past, no doubt.
Yeah, a BD in chat said he's got like 15 pitches. Yeah, Chris Bassett has any pitch imaginable. He throws all of them. That's not necessarily a great thing, but it's just a thing to me. It's kind of like, like I don't say, like, who has the best food? Diners, because they've got 90 things on the menu, right? Like at a certain point, you kind of need to specialize in something. It would be nice to be able to throw that 100-mile-per-hour fastball that you could lean on. But yeah, he does have a lot of pitches in his arsenal, and at the very least, I think that's one of the reasons he's been able to still be a successful pitcher at age 36, despite some diminished velocity. He's still able to find pretty good results. Last year was a little bit of a down year for him, but, he's consistently been a top-end starter now since 2018, last year notwithstanding. And maybe there's a part of this, too, where Chris Bassett, he's for sure not going to keep these numbers up. If he does, he has, like, one of the best seasons ever for a pitcher. So, like, this isn't going to continue. But there's something to be said for that if we discount last year and we just look at some of the other years that he'd had recently, he's not an ace, but he's like a very solid number 2 starting pitcher if you look past the 2024 season.
Yeah, I can get on board with Bassett here. I think just talking about the matchup and how it's like more desirable for a pitcher than what the eye would tell you is important here. I mean, yeah, Bassett's been really good this year. I'm with you. I don't expect this to keep up, but you don't need like that to keep up for him to be viable tonight. As basically the same price as Bubic at like a quarter of the ownership. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I dig it. I like Bubic more just on a
same,
if I had to pick someone just to score more fantasy points, but I think with the ownership, it's interesting if nothing else.
Yeah. And also the way I'm looking at it as, if somebody's playing a handful of lineups, presumably they're not playing, Bubic and Bailey Oberyn as the pitching combination in all of those lineups, and just trying to figure out like who are the other options to consider. And yeah, across my top 150 lineups, I do come in overweight to the field on Chris Bassett, who I think, considering a strong start and maybe the easier than what people would think of as a matchup, he's somebody to be clicking on. As far as the other pay-up options, anything else you want to talk about or anybody else who catches your eye?
No, I think Sanchez is good enough to be in play in any matchup, so tonight is no exception. Soriano gets the cake Pittsburgh spot at home, so he's pricey, but I don't think he's a bad play. And again, if you're just trying to get off that ownership, I don't think those guys are bad plays. I just don't think they're as good of plays as Bubic here.
We got a question from Melissa in Discord. Melissa wants to know, when we do single entry contests, do we play the same lineup in separate single entry contests, or do we vary it up with some different lineups? Okay, so we'll answer this one part at a time. First, when we do single entry, do we play the same lineup in separate single entry contests, or we vary it up with different lineups? So for me, when I'm playing single entry for baseball, actually, this applies to me for all sports other than football. Football, I do it a little bit differently. I might play multiple lineups in a single entry contest. For baseball, though, I usually have an angle that I'm looking to attack, and that is the lineup that I play across all of my single entry lineups. And then some of the other ones, maybe not necessarily like strictly single entry, but there's like some of the 3 max stuff or 4 max stuff. If I'm playing one lineup, I'll play that same single entry lineup across those contests as well. What are your thoughts on this, Matt?
Exact same. I mean, yeah, I feel like we know each other well enough to know that by now, and that we play, like if I'm playing one single entry lineup, it's going to be the same lineup throughout. I feel like football is different. Like for me, football is probably the same, but could be different just because there's so many good single entry contests. You know what I mean? Like you could just play single entry with football and use like, and spend a lot of money. In baseball and basketball, like there are good single entry contests, but like not like a ton of them.
Yeah. And not only that, but like for football specifically, which makes it different, which this is kind of echoing the same thing you just said, but kind of adding to it a little bit. It's not just that there's a lot of single entry contests for football. There's a lot of ones at the same buy-in level.
Right.
Like similar prize pools. Like,
yes.
You've got the I forget the names of the different, but maybe like the $100 spy. There's like 6 iterations.
That's what I really meant.
Someday.
That's what I really meant. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not just that you could play in multiple single, like you play in like the same single entry, but it'll just be like, hey, here we've got the spy, but with 4,000 entries. Here's the spy, but with 3,000. Here's the spy with 5,000 entries. So for football, yeah, that's why for NFL, I might have like different kinds of stacks. I'm like, hey, I want to build a game stack of this game in one single entry, this one in a different single entry. I probably would do that for baseball if the contests were the same. That's just not realistic.
It's funny too, because football is such a different entity than any other DFS, than any other sport. Cause there's only like 18 main slates. Like there's 18 main baseball slates within the next 18 days.
More because of all the days with
right.
double slates.
Exactly. So like football is just a different beast, and that a lot of people want to play, just more because there aren't that many days to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then, another thing that kind of echoes to what you had said as well with all the amount of baseball slates is the amount of single entry lineups you would play in a week in baseball is probably going to be, way more than what you'd play in football, even if you're playing all those different contests anyway. So the way you're diversifying in single entry in baseball compared to a sport like football is you're just playing a different slate every single day. Same with NBA.
Yeah,
so that's, there's no real correlation between like the Monday slate, the Tuesday slate. So it's not like you have to try to diversify your lineups like as much as possible. It's not like everything is on the line for every single slate.
Yeah, at least it shouldn't be.
The next part of Melissa's question is if we do vary it up, which we don't, but we could answer this part anyway. Do we make different lineups or just change 1 or 2 players? So if you are going to mix it up, I think the lineup should be a little bit different than that. Like the way I would look at it is for baseball would be I'm switching out 1 or 2 players. It would probably be I'm playing a different stack in different lineups.
I don't have a strong opinion on this. Like some slates, it might be a different stack. Some slates, it might be a couple different players. Like I just don't have rules like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Also to answer the first part, I also don't play different single entry lineups for baseball.
But I'm thinking about like my 3 entry, or I'm playing 4 lineups tonight. I'm kind of like taking that question, like in terms of how I'll play that. Like, again, they're not all going to be like 4 of the same lineups with 1 player difference, but just is slate specific on how similar those lineups might be.
Let's see what we have here. I don't know if he's watching the show, but by the way, it's funny people sign up for a product and they're like, these are their names. So anyway, from Discord, this is the Squirt Blanket. That's his name. That's his name in Discord. He's a paying customer because he says he just signed up for the MLB DFS product. Any direction or guidance on a process or how to use effectively? And then he also wants to know, is there a big learning curve? So Mr. Squirt Blanket, I'll address him by his proper name. I want to be respectful here. Mr. Squirt Blanket. I have a bunch of tutorial content that I've made up on the website, and you can find it either on the website, or you can find it on YouTube. If you want to search how to use MLB DFS Sims 2025, the video will show up, and it's a walkthrough of how to use the tools on the site. So I highly recommend that. That will be very useful to you. So if you have additional questions, hit me up in Discord and I could answer them more in depth right after this. But Mr. Blanket, happy to be of assistance there. Moving on here, because we've got all the questions answered. We've talked about the, well, not exactly the high-end pitchers, but the high-end pitchers we have relative to this slate in the 8K range. Let's talk about the 7K range. We'll leave kind of Bailey Ober for his own kind of thing over here. There's nobody popular in the 7K range, Matt. Jordan Hicks is 8% owned. Ronel Blanco, who is finally not crazy expensive anymore. For the longest time, every slate, Ronel Blanco was like $9,500 and 2% owned. Nobody rosters him. Hey, they priced him appropriately, and guess what? People still aren't rostering him. He's $7,600, and he gets the same ownership that he gets when he was like $9,800 or whatever. But Ronel Blanco, he's 5% owned. Jordan Hicks is 8% owned. This is a dead range. Nobody's rostering anybody here. All the pitchers are sub 10% owned. Is there anybody you think the field is missing out on?
So this is interesting. And when I look at the tools, like I try to look at stuff that really stands out to me. So while I personally don't think the field is missing anything here, Jordan Hicks really stands out in the tools to me as being someone that is getting just totally slept on. I don't get it. His numbers aren't great. His underlines aren't great. I don't love the matchup. Certainly I love the ballpark, but he's like the 5th highest pitcher in the top pitcher tool. He's the highest leverage pitcher in the tool. Like, it honestly reminds me a lot of Tyler Mahle last week when I played him. I don't think we had the options up top, like in Bubich and I think Ober was the other guy I used there. But man, Jordan Hicks like really, really stands out to me as just an outlier looking at the tools. Do you feel similarly, or do you just look at it as just, it is what it is?
Of all the pitchers in the 7K range, he's my favorite. It's not saying that much because it's a really weak range of pitchers, but running stuff through the Sims, he did show up in 20% of my lineups. That's about 3x the field.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not surprised at that.
Yeah, he's got a couple of things going for him. Most notably being that I do think the Brewers' offense is probably going to end up being not too great this year once the dust ends up settling. This is a team that overperformed by a good amount last year. Maybe if Jackson Trio breaks out and he becomes like a real MVP type candidate, maybe that won't be the case. Maybe if Christian Yelich is healthy all season and he plays at peak form, potentially it won't be the case. But you've got Jordan Hicks, who, small sample size, has really struggled this year with a 6.04 ERA. On the positive side, he's a 4.13 FIP. He's got a 4.25 expected ERA. So he's running into some bad luck here to open up the season. That's something that should definitely normalize. Certainly like the park that he's going to be pitching in, home in San Francisco, really pitcher-friendly park. So as a guy who pitches to contact, it does benefit that he gets to make half of his starts in San Francisco. The other thing, too, is it's just kind of like process of elimination. Who are the other options in this price range? They all kind of suck. Give me a guy with a seemingly okay matchup in a really pitcher-friendly park. Wouldn't be the pitcher I'm playing in single entry. Wouldn't be like the first pitcher I roster or anything like that. But just in the interest of trying to find some contrarian guys, on the high end for me, it's Chris Bassett. On the low end for me, it's Jordan Hicks.
Yeah, again, like just looking at this slate, like pulling up DraftKings and looking at the pitchers, like I wouldn't even consider him in play, but the tools have changed my opinion on that. So I don't know if I'm going to actually use him, but he's way more in play for me than he was like when I first looked at the slate. And that's, been the case all day because he's looked good in the tools. So yeah, don't have that much, good stuff to say about him other than that he looks really good in the tools. And that, I use that as a guide. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I guess one other positive I'll add as well is last year he was a full-time starter for the first time for the Giants. And he's somebody who threw extremely, extremely hard out of the bullpen. If you remember, he used to be able to throw like 103, 104, 105 miles per hour.
It still wasn't that great.
No, but did throw really hard and had some success out of the bullpen. Now, last year, totally understandable. His velocity dipped as a starter. Was he throwing soft? No, he had a 96 mile per hour as his average on his fastball. It's up to 98 this year. So he has added a couple miles per hour of velocity to his fastball. It's not nothing. Like, that's a fairly substantial number. Also, he did make a few appearances out of the bullpen last year and still wasn't quite hitting these velocity numbers overall. So it's good to see velocity is up. There's some signs for Jordan Hicks where What I'm really doing here, Matt, is like I'm looking at some of the data and the tools. I'm kind of backfilling and be like, all right, can I talk myself into Jordan Hicks? Like our data likes him, and I don't love him, but I can make a better case for him than any of the other pitchers who are in the 7K range.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, the other pitchers in the 7K range are like, maybe the worst options on this slate. So I'm with you there.
Let's go ahead and look at the punt options, which we've got Bailey Ober, who's just grossly mispriced. I know he struggled out of the gate here, but he's got a great matchup against the White Sox. He got a track record of being not a great, but a solid starting pitcher. And then the other pitchers, if you're looking to punt, it's Davis Martin, it's Bailey Falter, it's Ryan Feltner, it's Patrick Corbin. One of these pitchers is not like the other, and that's Bailey Ober. He's got a great matchup. He's so much better than the other pitchers in these price range. If you need a punt, he's just so obviously the choice to make.
I don't think there's been an easier click for me at pitcher this whole year than Ober at 6,900. I've played him a bunch this season, like almost every start, I think. He's finally looking right. He was good last time out against the Mets, tough matchup. Now he's at home against the White Sox at 6,900. Like, yeah, he's volatile. It's baseball. They could get to him here, but there's no way I'm not playing Ober in this spot. Like I said it earlier, I like Ober much more than Bubich at their price tag and ownership. So he's SP1 for me here at 6,900. He was on my winning lineup last week. Like, there's no way I'm not playing him here.
Lots of questions in Discord. Well, not a lot, but 2 in a row. So it feels like a lot. We've got Flim Flam Man wants to know anyone like Brandon Pfaadt today. We've got Einstein. He wants to know no love for Brandon Pfaadt. Is Tampa Bay a team we should target away from home? So I don't think Tampa Bay is, just because they're playing in a more hitter-friendly park this year, I don't think that makes them worse on the road this season, right? Like, I think they're just going to be the same offense that would have been away from home in previous years. To me, the more notable thing is we want to be targeting when they're at home more frequently this year. But this doesn't mean that all of a sudden I want to be targeting them away from home. The other part of this, too, Arizona is a pretty damn hitter-friendly park. So it's not like they're going to San Francisco or anything like that. They're just moving to another hitter-friendly park that's probably somewhat comparably hitter-friendly. So as far as Pfaadt goes, he shows up in some lineups for me. I have him in 6% of lineups. He's pulling 11% ownership. But now there's other guys that I prefer to be rostering today. He's not really he's not a strong consideration for me. The ownership just seems to be about accurate. And that's what our data shows as well. We've got him with 11% ownership, 9% chance of being a top 2 value pitcher on the slate, 12% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. I just think he's about adequately owned.
I agree. I do think that, Tampa's stadium at home, like the, George Steinbrenner Field, is probably better for offense than most parks, in the majors. But I also agree with you that doesn't mean I want to target pitchers against them on the road. Like, they're still a good offense. They're just better at home than they were in the past.
Yeah. And then, I mean, like I'd said before, if Tampa Bay was still playing in Tropicana Field,
okay,
this doesn't all of a sudden become a better spot for Brandon Pfaadt because they play. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It wouldn't be a better or worse. It's still the same
right.
spot. It just wouldn't make a difference.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, we got no other questions here on the DraftKings pitchers. I'll kind of speak for you. I'm going to assume you don't have interest in Martin, Falter, Feltner, or Corbin. Is that correct?
Yeah, no interest in any of those guys.
All right, so let's look at the FanDuel pitchers now, where ownership, once again, really condensed on Bubich. He is just under 40% owned. Bailey Ober is 18% owned. We got Christopher Sanchez at 13% ownership. Bailey Ober, quite a bit more expensive over on FanDuel, $8,900. It's funny. Even $8,900 as opposed to $6,900, he's still the second most popular pitcher on the slate, pulling a good amount of ownership. Outside of these top 3 guys, Bassett is 6% owned, Pfaadt 4%. We've got Soriano 4%. It's really only 3 pitchers who are pulling ownership. Would you still be going to Bubich if you're playing one lineup on FanDuel?
No, it's definitely Ober for me. I know the price discrepancy isn't as big, but Ober is still cheaper than a bunch of pitchers on FanDuel. I think I like the spot better for Ober. We've gone back and forth on this. I like both spots, obviously. He's half as owned as Bubich here. So, yeah, give me Ober on both sites as my SP1.
Yeah, I think Ober looks good on both sites for sure. as far as him compared to Bubic. Bubic still did the cash game pitcher for me over on FanDuel. I do like that we're getting Ober for less than half of the ownership in that great matchup. So yeah, I agree with you. That's a pretty big ownership gap. And then if I'm going to be going really contrarian over on FanDuel, I don't feel quite as good about Chris Bassett just because he's $10,600 on FanDuel. That's a big price point to pay. But Jordan Hicks at $7,600, 2% owned on FanDuel, especially where the strikeout doesn't matter quite as much on FanDuel. Like, could we get Jordan Hicks through 6 innings, get the win, the quality start? If I'm going to be contrarian on FanDuel, it's Jordan Hicks for me, Matt.
Yeah, it's the same as on DK. Hicks really stands out. I think he's the guy. High in the top pitcher tool, most leveraged pitcher, makes a lot of sense.
All right. If you guys haven't done it yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and do not forget that if you want to sign up for any of the MLB packages that we have at Stokastic, 50% off with the promo code RALLY. Matt recently took down $100,000. Jorge Giacomi, longtime sub on the site. He recently won $50,000 earlier this week. You guys could see the lineup on the screen here. So take advantage of this offer because it's only going to be up for a couple of hours. 50% off any MLB package. Promo code RALLY. Get access to all of the data and tools we have on the site. Get access to our Discord channel. Sign up now. Link down below in the YouTube description box. Just enter that promo code RALLY when you check out. Ready to talk some hitters here, Matt?
Let's do it.
All right. So let's look at the top stacks on the slate. And one thing that I always like to talk about when we're bringing up the top stacks is you and I both like single entries for baseball. If you're playing one lineup today, who is it that you'd be playing in that single entry lineup? Or sorry, what stack would you play in that single entry lineup?
So that's not totally decided yet. As of right now, it's got to be the Athletics. They're against Corbin. They're right with Texas as the highest stack on the board. They were in my winning lineup. I stacked the Athletics last week, and they got there for me. I will say, though, I am a little bit worried about ownership here. Just facing Corbin in this ballpark, I think people want to get there, but they're expensive enough where, kind of like last week against the White Sox, they don't get as much love as they should. That's how the top stack tool reads it. So I'm in on the Athletics again tonight. This ballpark is really hitter friendly, obviously, much more so than their old home stadium, the Coliseum in Oakland. So I'm in on the A's. How about you?
So we've got 3 teams that are pulling significant ownership. Those are the Royals, the Rangers, the Twins. They're all 8% or more owned as a team. I don't really have the same ownership concerns with you on the Athletics. I mean, like, they're going to be somewhat popular, but it doesn't look like they're going to be crazy popular or anything like that. We've got them as the 5th highest owned team on the entire slate. I think it's crazy. The Dodgers, the 4th most owned team against Imanaga. That seems to me to be like a pretty aggressive amount of ownership there going to the Dodgers, considering what their price points are. It's just kind of hard to get to them. I think the A's look really good. I'm on the same page as you. Like, as long as this ownership doesn't change, I do think that they look like a really strong stack for single entry. There's other directions we could look as well. But if I just had to roster one team right now, yeah, give me the Athletics.
Yeah, so I like the Athletics a lot. The only other team, well, there's a couple teams I like here. There's a bunch of good offenses here, which is why, the Athletics ownership probably stays in check. But, man, the Rangers also look good here. And what I'll say about the Rangers is slightly higher top stack percentage, like very slightly, but still slightly higher, much higher top value percentage, like almost, 2.5 times the chance of being the top value stack, and less ownership. So, like, the tools, to be quite honest, would say that the Rangers are a better stack than the Athletics.
Yeah, so the Rangers are a team that I get to a pretty decent amount in the Sims as well. There's a handful of teams that show up pretty frequently for me. So here's where I go with the A's over the Rangers for single entry. For large field GPPs, I actually do prefer the Rangers. For single entry, because of the value metric and the higher projected ownership, I think the Rangers are going to be very chalky in single entry. I think the Rangers are going to pull a lot of ownership. The Royals are going to pull a lot of ownership. And then I don't know how much popular anything else is going to be behind those teams. So I'm more concerned about Texas's ownership than I am about the A's ownership.
I disagree there. Maybe if we didn't have like Ober and Bubic at a combined 15, 8, whatever, that might be different, but we do. So you can fit the expensive Athletics, and people want to play against Corbin. The only thing I'll say is they just come up their top prospect, Nick Kurtz. He's a lefty, and he plays first, just like Soderstrom. So their lineup might be a little bit wonky here for DFS purposes, but I'm much more worried about the Athletics ownership than Texas. Like, sure, Corey Seager will be owned, and I don't know, Wyatt Langford, whoever else at the top of the lineup, Simeon, but I think the bottom of the Texas lineup compared to like the middle and bottom of Texas is lower owned than the Athletics. We'll see. Maybe it's about the same as their ownership kind of says it will be.
Yeah. Right now we have Oakland. I'm going to probably call them Oakland for forever now. But anyway, we've got the A's projected for 7% ownership as a team, Texas 8.7%. So, it's a 1.7% difference in ownership for the team as an aggregate. It's not like some sort of massive difference between the two, but just kind of like my intuition with how ownership kind of usually goes in MLB. There's usually a pretty big drop off for single entry between like the first and second highest owned stacks and like the third and fourth, where people just kind of gravitate towards those other teams. But everybody knows Patrick Corbin. Well, generally people know Patrick Corbin sucks. He does have a 3.86 ERA this year and a 4.11 FIP. So maybe people look at that and be like, hey, Patrick Corbin, not all that terrible, but he's pitched 9 innings. He's made 2 starts. He's been dog shit every year since 2019. So I think most people are probably going to be like, these 9 innings aside, he's probably going to suck this year. So I like the A's overall as my favorite overall stack. For large field GPPs, though, I really do like the Rangers. I think the Twins look good, too. That's another team that projects really well on a points per dollar basis in a good matchup against Davis Martin. So I think those are some warranted chalk spots. What do you make of the chalk going to the Royals, though?
So real quick, before I talk about the Royals,
yes.
The tools have up, like I thought I had updated, but mine were 30 minutes old. And in that run, we had the Rangers slightly lower on than the A's, but obviously I updated since then, and your numbers were correct. So how the numbers look now, I think the Athletics look a lot better than the Rangers, and updates and stuff can do that. The margins are slim here, so I like both the Rangers and A's a lot. I'll probably play some of both. I'm not going to play any Kansas City at that ownership. I'm not going to eat into it. Like Feltner is good enough on the road for me. Kansas City is not good. I'm not rushing to play. Honestly, I think I'd play any other stack on the board outside of Kansas City at this ownership.
Yeah, KC, super popular, the most popular team on the slate, just under 10% owned. And I get 5% of them as a stack.
I don't even get it.
So, it's kind of funny, actually. Like running everything through Sims, I got to 5% of them. That's about what our top stack percentage is on them at 5.5%. So, the Royals, it's not like it's an unplayable stack or anything like that. They just look wildly overowned in the tools. They're probably going to be pretty overowned in single entry. They've got a matchup against Ryan Feltner. Feltner isn't great, but for a guy who makes half his starts at Coors Field, he's got a 4.82 ERA, a 4.1 expected ERA. Last year, 4.49 ERA, 4.31 expected ERA. Once again, you have to consider he makes half of his starts at Coors Field, and this game isn't at Coors Field. Like, I think Ryan Feltner's a pretty middle-of-the-road starting pitcher. I don't think this is like some sort of outstanding matchup or anything.
Yeah, I don't even get it. Like, I really don't get it. Felter's no Cy Young, but, like, there are a bunch of bad pitchers on this slate and offenses that are better than Kansas City. So I get they're cheap, but, like, that's about all they have going for them. Like, I could think of, with ownership, I would stack basically any other team on this slate other than Kansas City. Even without ownership, there's no way they would be in the top 5 for me as offenses I like. So, yeah, I don't really get it.
Super chat from Ryan Renebaum. He wants to know who's our preferred pitcher for the $15 GPP over on FanDuel. Matt and I were both aligned on this. Bailey Ober. If you're just playing one lineup over there, he's less than half of the ownership of Bubic. Like if we didn't care about ownership, didn't care about prices or anything like that, then yeah, Bubic would be the guy overall in the slate. But those things do matter. So to me, Bailey Ober, if you do want to be really contrarian, you can make a case for Jordan Hicks, but I feel like Bailey Ober is the guy there, and I remember that being your answer as well, Matt.
Totally.
All right, let's see. Was there any other questions for us in Discord? Not at the moment. So let's carry on here. Are there any lower owned stacks you're liking for today? Because we've identified some teams like the A's that we like who are not crazy popular. But, a lot of people are like, yeah, they're going against Patrick Corbin. They know that they want to play the A's. Are there any low owned offenses that stand out to you for any reason?
It's funny, like, offense is so split as far as projections go. Like, I don't really think you need to get off the board with like the Colorados against Bubich, the White Sox against Over. It's baseball. So those guys are going to get a lot of love. If you like stacking against the opposing pitcher, against like the popular pitcher, I get it, but that's not how I'm going to do it. As far as like other offenses that are a little bit off the beaten path, I like Arizona. Zach Littell is not very good. So I like the Diamondbacks here. On a lot of slates, they'd be getting a lot of love. They're not here. I like the Angels. They're also coming in with nice leverage. I like the Rangers and Athletics more, but man, these are teams that, again, on a lot of slates, I think would look really, really good here. So I would say my two like slightly lower owned teams that I like quite a bit are the Diamondbacks and Angels. How about you?
Yeah, so one that's really standing out to me in my Sims run here is the Atlanta Braves, who have a matchup against Andre Palante, which I don't think it's a great matchup or anything. I don't think it's a terrible matchup. I think Palante is probably just somewhere middle of the road kind of pitcher. Does pitch to a ton of contact. This is not a guy who's capable of getting swing and misses. Very high ground ball rate, but when the ball gets hit in the air against him, tends to lead to home runs. 25% home run fly ball rate this year, 15% overall for his career. Also previously used to be a bullpen pitcher. So this is only going to be actually his first year as a full-time starter, because last year he was part-time starter, part-time reliever. But the Atlanta Braves, Matt, this is a team that I think has been underrated for maybe not as much now because they've started to win games, but for at least the majority of the start of the season, saw a lot of people who were just like, oh, the Braves suck this year. This team's terrible. They were no good last year. They had a lot of injuries last year. They've had some injuries this year. Spencer Strider just came back and already got hurt, apparently playing catch, pulled the hamstring. So there are definitely reoccurring injury issues with this team. And then also, you had the situation where you've got Jurickson Profar has already been suspended and is not eligible to be playing in the postseason. But this is a team that is finally starting to put some actual meaningful offense together. There's a ton of power in that lineup. And I do think that by the time we're at the end of the season, we're going to look at the Atlanta Braves as one of the best teams in baseball, going to be looking at them as a contender. There are not going to be very many slates where they're at home in favorable weather that we can get them at 5% ownership. I generally still look at this as a little bit of a buy low spot for the Braves without much runway left for buy low spots for them.
I get it. They don't really stand out to me as far as like ownership goes in their top stack percentage, but we know how good the Braves can be and how high their upside is on any given slate. So I think they fit right in with like the Diamondbacks and Angels. And one thing I'll say, like, I really like teams like this is in the weeds a little bit, and obviously doesn't always work out, that really got going towards the end of games in their last game. And the Braves obviously went nuclear in the 8th inning last night. The Angels did the same against the Giants on Sunday. So just worth noting, teams coming in with good mojo. I think both those teams are wildly in play. And it's no surprise that the Angels, Diamondbacks, and Braves are all back to back in the top stack tool. And the Royals are below all of them.
Yeah, and we had, what did the Braves start this year? Like 0-8 or something? What was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
maybe 0-8. I don't know.
Yeah, so they started the season 0-7, and yeah, since then they've kind of they're 9-6 now in their last like what you would expect from the Braves, like 9-6 in their last 15 games. That would be 90-60 over the course of 162 game season. They would start to looking at a team that would be like pacing for like mid to high 90s wins. I think the Braves are going to be fine going forward. And, if they would have lost those 7 games in a row at the middle of the season, as opposed to being the first 7 games of the year, I think it would wildly change the perception of this team. But here they are. They're on a 4-game winning streak. They're putting runs up on the board. The power showing. Also, Austin Riley, don't forget, Austin Riley missed a bunch of time last year. Now he's back and healthy. He started the year off really slow, which I think probably was at least partially due to a lack of reps from the injuries that he dealt with last year. And he's been one of the better hitters in baseball as of late, actually overall for the entire season now that he's kind of gotten going. So I don't know. I look at the Braves as a good buy low spot here against Andre Palante, getting them at 5% ownership. I have them at about 10% of lineups in the sim. So there are only 4 teams that I got double digit exposure to in the sims. It's the Twins, the Rangers, the Braves, and the A's. Those are the 4 teams I like the most.
I get it. And I think all your points on Atlanta are well taken.
Are there any contrarian teams that you're liking either as a leverage option? Like, are you considering stacking against Bubic? Are you considering stacking against Bailey Ober? Or is there a team that's like 3% owned that you think might be getting slept on?
No. No, I don't. I mean, there aren't that many teams that are getting like 3% ownership. So like the Rockies and White Sox are only in play because they're facing popular pitchers, but other than that, like not really. The Astros, like the top of their lineup is always in play, but it's a tough spot and they're expensive. So I don't really see it like with any expense or with any like really, really low owned stack. I mean, the high owned stacks, no one's projected for over 10% ownership, and I don't even like that stack. So again, I'm kind of with you in that I'm just not overly concerned with ownership.
Yeah. And then looking at like the really low end, I like technically I get overweight to the Rockies because I have 2% of them, but they're not like a real strong consideration. This is a spot where at times, like, because Bubic is good, I don't think that he's like some ace or anything like
Agreed.
that. This is the kind of guy who I do stack against at times, but the data is just not really getting me there against him. This Rockies offense is really poor. I wish that he was this popular against a slightly better offense.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he should never be. I'm with you. Chris Bubic should never be 58 or 60% owned. And like, I might not play him because of that, but do I really want to stack the Rockies against him? I feel like just not playing him is enough. And there are so many scenarios where he's not great and the Rockies aren't great. Then like he just gets absolutely blown up here and the Rockies hit multiple home runs. It could happen. I mean, weirder things have happened. It's baseball again. Stuff like that will happen multiple times throughout the year. But like, I'm not going to put my money on the Rockies here. At least I don't think.
Like Red Kell in the chat was asking us any Pirates love, which by the way, the answer is no for me. But it's funny, like if Bubic was pitching against, say, the Pirates and he was, 60% owned, like I don't think the Pirates offense is any good, but I'd be like, oh, here's a great leverage spot. And like I'd be willing to play them there. It's hard for me to click on the Rockies today, though.
Who do you like more, the Rockies or the White Sox?
Probably the Rockies, just because the ownership on Bubic it's like nearly 2x of Bailey Ober's.
Yeah, agreed. So I'm with you there.
All right, let's look over on FanDuel and see if we could find anything that looks way different on FanDuel relative to DraftKings. The ownership, it is a little bit higher on the A's over on FanDuel relative to DK. We do have 10% ownership. We've also got the Rangers 10% owned. The Royals are 12% owned over on FanDuel. Twins 9% owned. It's more or less the same teams that we're considering at relatively similar ownerships. Do you have any strongly different takeaways on FanDuel relative to DraftKings?
Not really. I feel like there's enough good stacks where, the order of them might be a little bit different, but the same stacks are going to look good.
Rangers a little bit cheaper than the A's over on FanDuel, which is kind of hilarious. The Rangers being cheaper than the A's. Also, the ownership is about the same over on FanDuel. So where they do have the same ownership, then I say I lean a little bit more. So like if I was playing a single entry lineup on FanDuel, one on DraftKings, I would say like, A's stack on DraftKings, Rangers stack on FanDuel. It's way you can get exposure to both of them and it be with like slightly different leverage scenarios. But otherwise, the stacks that I like on DraftKings are the same stacks I like on FanDuel, and the ownership's pretty comparable.
So, yeah, it's funny now. I mean, we talked about this on DK. Like, now the tools have updated again since I last made that comment. And now we've got the Rangers slightly lower owned than the A's on DraftKings. And with, like, the Rangers are the significantly higher team in the top stack tool. So, like, I'm really going back and forth on who I think is going to be higher owned between those two teams.
Yeah, we'll see. Right now we're looking at FanDuel, and at least on FanDuel, we had the Rangers being marginally more popular. By the way, the Royals ownership has gone up even higher now. Now we've got the Royals over 10% owned. We've got the A's now at 8.3%, Rangers 8.2%. So it's very, very close here. I'm always going to like guys like Shohei Ohtani as a one-off. I don't love the Dodgers ownership against Imanaga at their price points, though.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see it personally. Like in higher dollar stuff, like I don't see them getting that ownership. I think it's good that ownership is going to go to like the Rangers and Athletics. You know, we always talk about the teams that are expected to be higher owned are always going to get more love in that smaller field stuff, and I think that's what we're going to see there.
Tyler Biddle in the chat asked, are stacks more important than individual hitter matchup / hot bats? I think you have to be stacking in MLB. It's not to say you can't win a tournament without stacking. It's just such an easier path to success by stacking. Who's hit the ball well as of late or who's hotter? It's something I put zero consideration into. I build my lineups around stacks, not individual hitters. I think it's more or less the same for you, right, Matt?
Yeah, 100% the same.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing too is, you know, like somebody's like 8 for 10 in their last 10 at bats. Like it's such small sample sizes. Random things could happen. You know, for all you know, too, they've just faced the easiest pitchers in the world over that stretch. Maybe they've gotten some lucky hits. Somebody could be 0 for 10 and like it could be 10 hard lineouts against you know, against 8 starting pitchers. So there's always extra context that's needed.
Totally.
Were there any other questions here? Yes, we've got a couple of questions from Discord. So let's answer these questions. Then we'll do our dong of the night, and then we'll hand it over to the NBA crew. So guys, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And one more time, want to remind you, if you sign up for any of the MLB packages we have on the site, use the promo code RALLY, and you'll get yourself 50% off. And that promo is only going to be good for the next couple of hours. So take advantage of it before it expires. Promo code RALLY. RALLY, all capital letters, link down below in the YouTube description box. Get yourself 50% off any MLB package. Matt's been killing it as of late. Jorge just had a GPP win. I was on vacation, so I was a little bit less involved in the MLB streets, but feel a little bit of FOMO. Feel like I missed out while I was away. Everybody was printing money, taking advantage of the contest that I wasn't playing in. But here we go. G Doe wants to know, do we have weather concerns for tonight's slate in any of the individual games? He is mentioning specifically the Atlanta as well as the Dodgers games. So let's see. Let's look at the Atlanta weather because Atlanta's home. All right. So what do we have for Atlanta weather right now? Doesn't really, there's like a 30% chance of pop-up showers, but that's not even persisting throughout the night. So even if it rains, seems like it should be good to go. The other one that he asked us about was the Chicago weather. As far as the Chicago weather goes, yeah, that's a 10% chance of rain. Nothing I'm concerned about. Those games should both be good to go. I don't have any concerns with those games being canceled. You're good to roster them, Gido. Einstein even says the Cubs are inevitable. I mean, they could be okay. I'm not going to call them inevitable on tonight's slate, though.
I agree. I mean, they're certainly not inevitable, but I will say about the Cubs at this point, like they've got to be in play on like every slate they're on based on the fact that they're never going to get any ownership because of how expensive they are. Like on one hand, they're too expensive to get to, and the other, they're in play because of how expensive they are. So I see it both ways.
And the final question they have sitting us for here in Discord is from Clintwood83. Clintwood, who was very proud of you for not being muted in playback earlier, Matt. So he's got a follow-up question now because he knows he's going to be, now he feels good to ask his question because he knows he's going to be able to hear an answer. He says, I have a few lineups that he's juggling for a DK single entry, a few for cash, but the problem with both is I can't decide on Witt or Seager for shortstop. Says he's leaning Witt, but all right. So between Witt and Seager, my preference is Corey Seager. He has less than half of the ownership of Bobby Witt. We touched on before. Also, he's way cheaper. He's $1,500 cheaper. We also talked about the Royals being a team that is overowned relative to the slate. I prefer Corey Seager at less than half the ownership and a $1,500 salary savings compared to Bobby Witt.
I mean, it's not even close for me considering those two things. I don't understand why Witt would be higher owned than Seager here, but presuming the ownership correct projections are even somewhat correct, it's Seager easily for me. Now, if I had the money as a one-off, I'm playing Witt there.
You just won $100,000. You got the money to spend the $1,500
No.
extra on a shortstop.
No, you know what I mean. Like, do you like, okay, I'll put it like this to you. If you had, however much WIT is 5,500, would you leave money on the table to play Seager as a one-off?
I mean, I'd probably upgrade somewhere else though.
Okay. Like in baseball, I don't think you're crazy to play Seager over WIT there. Like, maybe I would.
No, the only thing I would say is that I'm still fairly likely to just spend up the salary somewhere else.
Yeah, agree there.
But yeah, for me, that is going to be Corey Seager over Bobby Witt. But yeah, I assume that Clinton Wood is just asking like in general between the two. I don't think he's asking like relative to like potentially leaving salary on the table. But Corey Seager, that is going to be my answer. Now, we are at everybody's favorite portion of the show. It is time for Dong Picks. And let us know in chat, who are you guys picking to go yard today? I'll read off some of your answers. From you, Matt, who is your Dong pick for the night?
I'm going to go with a guy that just came back, already back in the 2-hole for the Angels. Give me Zach Neto taking Bailey Falter yard here.
I am going to go with a guy who was one of the top young players in baseball, mysteriously had a terrible year last year, came on down the tail end of the season. Now he seems to be back. I don't know what the hell happened with Corbin Carroll last year. I don't know if his shoulder was bothering him or something else, but as far as one-offs go, I have him in a bunch of lineups. He's actually my most rostered outfielder. So Corbin Carroll, I think, is one of the top spend-up options on the slate. You and I were talking at the top about some of the stack ownership and how the pitchers are cheap and trying to figure out like where you would spend that money. Corbin Carroll, 13% owned. He's somebody who I have in nearly 30% of lineup. So I really like Corbin Carroll as a spend-up option, as somebody to be getting to for today. Matt, picking him to go yard. And now from chat, let's see what we have from chat. We've got George Springer from Steven Leibowitz. We've got Francisco Lindor from BD, Lawrence Butler from Aiden Questkin. Yeah, Lindor seems to homer. I don't know how he doesn't have like 30 homers already this season, because I do feel like I constantly get alerts on my phone, like Francisco Lindor homer, second homer of the game for Francisco Lindor. So been a torrid start. Lots of shortstops who are going well. Shortstop is a loaded position in the MLB these days. Corey Seager from Clintwood. So I guess he settled on who it is that he's going to be playing because he picked Corey Seager for his home run pick. Sotex, Luis Urias. We've got Ellie De La Cruz from G Joyner. Nicholas Robertson is going with Byron Buxton. Brent Rooker from Nate. Malukar is going with Xander Bogaerts. Aaron Hines has Josh Naylor. We've got Kike Hernandez from Jeff Matthews. Taco Bell has got Ozzy Albies. Rowdy Telez as well here from G Joyner. Brent Rooker, this time from Alex Serra. We've got Trey McKell going with Shea Langoliers. We've got Reg Kell with Jacob Wilson there. Tango Hotel throwing Keishel out there. And that is going to do it for us, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you have not done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel right after this. NBA Live Before Lock. That's going to be on the YouTube channel. Then after NBA Live Before Lock, myself and Josh Engelman over in playback watching the games with you guys. So see you guys back here in an hour. Peace.